here at the Kalavan Retreat Center, after our first year of bringing in international guests and volunteers, we realized we needed some kind of filtering mechanism to keep the assholes out. Because there are a lot of assholes in the world, we discovered. Did you know this? I didn't know this. Figured this out though. So, the first thing I thought, it was very crude, very direct, but seemingly effective. Whenever we would talk to a new person who wanted to come here, who contacted us through our Workaway account or followed us on Instagram or just had somebody refer them, who said, yeah, I want to come there for a week or a month or whatever and stay. I'd always get on a call with them, and it's really, really hard to tell exactly what kind of person you're dealing with just on a single call. And they, of course, should have much more information about us than we do about them because they've heard about us, they've seen our videos and our content, and so they should have a pretty good idea of whether or not we're the kind of people they want to come hang out with, right? They should self-select to a degree, and if they don't like this environment, they don't like the way we do things in our house, they don't like me as a person for any reason, valid or invalid, they should know not to come here. But I have found most people aren't very good at that. So, virtually always now, when I get on a call with someone who wants to come here, after we've explained the volunteer situation to them, I say, by the way, are you an asshole? And one of two things happens after that. Either they laugh and say, what? What kind of question is that? Or they get very, very offended. What? How do you think I'm an asshole? How dare you say that about me? I'll say, well, I don't know anything about you. I'm just asking, are you an asshole? Because if you are, you probably shouldn't come here. We don't really want assholes here. So if you are, just let me know. And so we know not to have you come here. And of course, nobody ever actually admits that they're an asshole. But that mechanism actually, I think, works pretty well, because I think people who are assholes, even if they will never consciously admit it to themselves or others, have probably been accused of being assholes their entire lives. So they're kind of sensitive about that issue. Like, they know they're an asshole, but they don't want to admit they're an asshole. I have a very important question to ask you. Are you an asshole?
What?
Are you an asshole?
What do you mean?
An asshole, like a jerk or something.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Okay.
Because I ask everyone that question. You know why?
Why?
No one will ever admit to being an asshole, right? Like, even if you were the biggest asshole in the world, you would never tell me, yeah, I'm an asshole. People hate me, right? But people who aren't assholes just think the question is kind of funny, right? Like, okay, that's a weird thing to ask. But if you are an asshole, it's very likely you're going to get offended that I asked you that question. Do you see what I mean? So you can tell if someone is an asshole by how they respond to you asking if they're an asshole. Even if they say no, you'll see they clearly, like, we've had some people say, like, why would you ask me that? Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you think that I'm an asshole? And I'll say, well, I don't know anything about you. Actually, I'm just asking. And we had one guy, everything seemed fine as we were talking. He seemed like he really wanted to come here. And after I asked that question, he had a kind of a strong reaction. Like, why would you ask me that question? What's wrong with you? I said, I'm just asking, And then the next day he messaged me saying, oh, my travel plans have changed. I'm not coming there anymore. Now, I don't know if his travel plans actually did change, or if he got so offended by that question that he said, well, fuck those people. I don't want to go live in a house full of people who think I'm an asshole, Which is probably a good thing, because it probably indicates that he might have been an asshole. Like, he might have we've had, especially in the early days of volunteers where we started taking people in here, almost everything was fine, but about 10% of people who would come here would just have some fucking problem with everyone and everything, and they had very specific expectations about how things were done. They'd get into fights over stupid bullshit for no reason. And so it's amazing how one asshole can create an uncomfortable situation for a whole house full of people, right? So we're doing everything we can to filter those people out and say, like, look, if you're that kind of person, you're not going to enjoy being here. We're not going to enjoy having you here. So let's just save some time, right? So I'm glad you're not an asshole.
It's so funny.
And following up on that, recently we wrote on the Kalavan Retreat Center blog 6 types of volunteers we don't want here. And I've grouped them into 3 broad categories. First, of course, is the asshole, which is just somebody who does not respect other people, basically. So they probably shouldn't be living in a house full of strangers if they don't have a basic level of empathy and respect for others. The second was the loser, which is somebody who's coming here because their personal life is a catastrophe and they essentially need us to save them from themselves. And as much as we sympathize with people in that kind of situation, that's really not what we're doing. It's not a charity. It's not a halfway house. It's not an emergency shelter, right? And so that really puts them in a compromising position and compromises their judgment, because they'll do anything. They'll go anywhere that will have them, which means they'll come here even if it's not a good fit for them. And they'll often be misleading and dishonest about whether or not it's a good fit for them just because they're desperate for somewhere to go. And the third is the freeloader, which is someone who comes here as a volunteer, but does not seem to be interested in doing any volunteering. We still get some of these. After I posted that blog post saying, we don't want these kinds of people here, right? One guy contacted me. I sent him the article saying, by the way, we just posted this on our blog. What do you think? He read it. He said, wow, that's amazing that you've had those kinds of people there. That's crazy. Like, I can't even imagine that. I said, okay, so this must be a good guy. He sees that we don't want these types of people here, so he must not be one of these types of people. Seems logical to me. Well, this young man came here, stayed 1 week, and every single day that he was here had some excuse for why he did not want to do any volunteer work. Every single day. After reading an article about how we don't want freeloaders here, and after I personally relayed to him stories of guests who came here and acted as freeloaders or shitty guests in some other form, and was amazed that those kinds of people came here, he himself then proceeded to be one of these people that I was complaining about, and seemed to be completely unaware that that's what he was doing. So, it's not a perfect system, because it requires some degree of self-awareness, which I have realized some people do not have. But we're working on it. It's 90% effective now. 90% of the time we get good guests here, but every once in a while still somebody slips in, and we're working on protocols to get them out as quickly as possible when they do slip in, like a rat in your kitchen or something. But it's a work in progress, and from what I've heard, basically every organization that takes in volunteers, everybody on Workaway has similar problems to deal with, so I think it's just part of the job.